Welcome to another episode of Murphy, Sam, and Jody After the Show.
I have to talk about holiday foods here. I would like to talk about holiday foods, and in particular, nasty holiday foods.
Ew.
Because in all the talk over the past couple of weeks about, the gifted day and the make it,
daily
take
holiday
it,
yum.
daily holiday yum, it
delish.
harkened me back to when we used to go to my aunt and uncle's house every year for the holidays.
Okay.
And
Sam.
every year...
Did you go for Christmas Day, Sam, or was it just
with Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Oh.
And we went to their house every year. We have a small family, but every year...
That's nice.
It was the same meal every year.
Yeah.
When I was a child, there was never any variety. There was never any. Hey, this year we're going to try this, or maybe.
So what you're saying is that you've always been complaining.
This could be the start of it, because
isn't that the tradition? Isn't that the point? Traditional meal for a holiday?
Kind of, yeah. But the stuff that my aunt would make, and she's passed away now, so she can't hear this.
Great.
Well, actually, I guess she can hear this. She used to make something. It was a merlaton or a melon. I don't even know how to say it. Dressing / casserole. Do you even know what those are?
No.
They're shaped like pears, and they're like a squash. And
okay.
Sounds disgusting.
It was disgusting, and that was her, go-to every year.
Right.
She made that, and we were all supposed to go ooh ah. And as a kid, I didn't want to touch it.
Yeah.
My grandmother would make mock oyster dip.
Yeah.
Couldn't go far enough to get the oysters in it. She had to make a mock oyster dip.
What does that mean?
It wasn't
Fake.
oysters. It was
but what is it?
Fake to taste like oyster dip.
How do you fake that?
Not dip. It was also
You leave it out for a long time.
It was a dressing too. I think she.
I've heard of it before. I don't know
I think she
it.
actually used liver in this thing.
Gross.
Liver.
Okay, so these two
Man,
dishes
this
right
does
here.
sound bad. No wonder.
And my uncle fancied himself a smoker, a meat smoker.
Okay, not a cigarette smoker.
No. He had his little Mr. Smoker, like we all had. And he would this was the driest turkey I've ever tasted. Year in and year out.
Okay.
And you had to sit there and pretend like you really did enjoy this turkey.
I'm sorry, Sam.
See, this is what happens when people aren't honest.
I know.
Everybody makes the same mistakes every year.
Delicious.
And not only that, but they had a small house, and it was my mom and dad, my brother and I, my grandma, my aunt and uncle.
Yes.
I always had the same seat every year. My seat
So you dreaded it.
My seat pushed up against the window. In her window, she had a miniature nativity scene, but it was too small for the window, so it stuck out about 2 feet.
Oh, man.
And, they had something under it to hold it up in the window, but it stuck out about 2 feet, which meant it went in somebody's back. Me, every year.
Oh.
Did you ever knock over any of the...
Oh, yeah. I'd
the
bump
baby
into
Jesus
it.
fall out?
They didn't catch the hint when I'd bump into it every year. So every year I had the nastiest food and sat in the worst seat.
I'm sorry. Did you get to at least make your own plate so that you could get little bits of the stuff you didn't like?
Yeah, you'd poke at the breast meat and hope that you might find a juicy one or a moist one. It almost reminds me when you watch it now of watching everybody at Christmas vacation.
You're like
eating the turkey.
It's so funny you say that because on the absolute flip side of that, we always had for Thanksgiving, and we still have this meal because my cousin Crystal is gracious enough to bust her butt making it. I help, but she shops for it, plans for it.
She portions it the day before.
Makes everything ahead of time. And it's the Thanksgiving meal, and we used to have it at Christmas sometimes, that my grandmother and the family would make, and it is the most delicious food. It's happy food to us. It's a really good turkey, juicy, sometimes smoked, sometimes just baked.
You also do that
cornbread
Instant
dressing.
Pot ham too, right?
We do ham now. That's new. My grandmother didn't do that, but it's like this broccoli rice cheese casserole. It's carrot souffle. It's and she also Crystal goes to the trouble of making yeast rolls, just like the one my grandmother made.
Wow!
And so that meal, my children have the absolute opposite of what you just described.
Yeah.
It's their favorite meal every year, and they look forward to the day and the meal and the food. They're always, and every year I have this conversation with Crystal in the kitchen. It's like, you know what? This stuff is not hard to make. It just takes a little planning. I should surprise them and make this meal once during the year in the summer or something and just surprise them. They would love it. I never remember to do it, though.
But you know what is
so funny?
Sad now that I think about it, because I loved Thanksgiving was always at my grandmother's house, and there's nobody in our family that carries that Thanksgiving tradition or those meals forward. And I guess when Jodi and I, got married, I didn't really have a choice, but I'm kidding. No.
But to go with her family.
We did. Actually, by the time Jodi and I got married, my grandmother was in her later years, and she really wasn't preparing that meal much anymore,
Sure.
And so
I had some Thanksgivings with your family. I remember them well.
Well, she did a great turkey. She loved doing spinach madeleine. That was her thing.
Yeah.
She did a cauliflower dressing that I absolutely loved. She did a true to form oyster dressing, which was great. But she also did, which was a Depression era recipe. She made the stuffing with French bread instead of cornbread, so it was actually like a white bread dressing, which was different. And it sort of had a gravy to it that was very good.
Yeah.
And I know that
I don't remember that, but
she wasn't making many of those things, but many of her recipes now have not. And my mother's addition to that, because they did add some things every year and try something different, was ambrosia, which was the marshmallow, coconut, sour cream, mandarin oranges.
I know your mother liked that.
Right,
I remember making that for her.
Yeah, and seeing
years later.
But no one's made that in the family. Maybe we should offer that one up as a,
I don't know how to make any of that, though. You'll have to get your grandmother's cookbooks out. But
and with my
so
grandmother and my
funny.
mom gone now, I can't really call anybody.
Yeah.
So I'll
And
just
the thing
have
is,
to do the best.
my dad was a great cook. He loved cooking in the
Did
kitchen.
he like that meal, as far as you knew?
I think he just went along with it. My dad was never one to start things, so it's
Okay,
like
so
if we're
he
having
just-
this, we just went along with it and ate the same.
So you got
stuff
that
for
from him,
a
sort
decade.
of, like just
Cooking, or just go along with
go
it.
along with it,
Yes,
bury
and
it
yes.
for years, and
Yeah.
then do a podcast on it.
Yeah, when no one's listening.
Yeah. It's I guess when you have a traditional meal, every year, I guess you, as the host or hostess, your aunt, she could never know. In her mind, for all she knew,
We all loved it.
you loved it.
Yeah.
It was what she, for all she knew, it's like, I got to make this again because this is what we have every year. You don't know if you just would have talked about it. But then again, as a kid guest, you probably should not have said anything.
But-
I believe in that. I believe in
We got all that.
teaching my kids to just,
We got all that
smile
talk out
and
the
say thank you. And
all that was out of the way before we went to their house. Yeah, so I
All
wonder
the
if
grumbling.
he's going to screw up the turkey
all the
again this year.
grumbling.
But the grandmother and my grandmother in that generation, that was a very different generation. I mean, they didn't have access to everything. There wasn't a Walmart deli on every street corner and that sort of thing. And so when that big meal was put together, I think it was costly, it was special, it was just so that it wasn't done very often, and that was the
a big
reason it
deal.
was such a big deal. But
We
then
take
you-
it for granted.
Yeah, but then you get to a place where you actually don't even know why the tradition continues. It's funny. It's true.
Yeah.
At some point, why did she make this? I don't know. The story gets lost and all of
Yeah.
those things. But I suspect that that's part of it, because I kind of felt the same way about some things in my family. I loved the tradition, but you wanted to try some new things. And I
Yeah.
never really understood, why didn't you try something, different? And again, I just think that generation looked at it in a different way altogether.
You've started some of your own new traditions, obviously, Sam.
Oh, the
Day
chicken
after
thing.
Thanksgiving, chicken
Yeah.
fingers and fries.
Yeah, and when my
Whether your kids get it or not yet, we don't know.
After we finally broke off from that wing of the family, when occasionally we do Thanksgiving at my house or we go back to my mom's, it's my dad started doing stuff new. Like we
Yeah.
got the carrot souffle, or the next year he would try this, or the next year he would try that. You'd still have the ham or the turkey, but my dad loved to play with side dishes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I would think, and really, your cousin Crystal has done that. That's where that peanut butter moon pie came from.
Yeah, we have the traditional things that she knows everybody loves. But yeah, she'll throw us a whatever you call it, what do you call that?
Curveball.
Curveball.
Yeah.
Zinger.
With some different dessert. And now the peanut butter pie that she made is going to be heavily requested.
Yeah, that's from the Waitress Cookbook, the
It's true.
movie and the Broadway play.
And she always makes pecan pies as well. And she only made one this year. But it's so good.
And-
She makes it in a cast iron.
Oh,
So
cool.
good.
Yeah, she does it that way. That's delicious. And she also wanted to try a cheesecake in the Instant Pot.
And she did that too.
And it was pretty
how did
awesome.
that- yeah.
It came
It
out
was
great.
good. And she had a bunch of toppings. Like, it was dessert overload.
Wow.
But yeah, my kids will forever look forward to that meal now. So
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, they should probably start learning how to make some of it.
Yeah,
I'm not
they
saying
should.
that because
Well,
maybe Crystal doesn't want to do it forever by herself.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, the reason that meal stays special is because it's really the only time of the year. Christmas and Thanksgiving are the only two times
Yeah.
it gets made.
So do you feel better now that you got this off of your chest, Sam, after all these years? Do you feel
Yeah,
better?
in the spirit of the season? Yes.
Yeah. It's too bad you couldn't say something when everybody was still alive and could have done something about it.
I waited till it was safe.